Today, I wanted to go over the aspect that makes men intimidating. I'm not saying intimidation is a bad thing. I'm just saying it can work in your favor. We're just talking about one aspect that is a common aspect that typically is common with those who might be perceived a little intimidating. That quality is actually honesty, and it comes across kind of direct. The reality of this type of honesty is it's when others might lie or bend a public opinion. So you are honest where maybe another person might not have been as honest as you have been. That's a very common trait that I see among men who might be perceived a little bit intimidating. And what does that look like? Well, I want to break that up so that you can evaluate if you're not sure if that's you or not. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And when it comes to honesty, how you react to the truth, whether you embrace it or run from it, reveals everything about your character. The man who can be honest, even when it's uncomfortable, is the man who cannot be controlled. And that is what makes him intimidating to those who are used to bending the truth to get what they want. The first one is actually, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not nice. See, this is the part that a lot of people think. People think this person who's intimidating is very mean. And you might think, well, I'm not mean, so there's no way that this can be perceived. It's not like that. Actually, it's the opposite. You are genuine and kind when that's how you truly feel. However, if that's not how you feel, you're not going to sugarcoat it. That's what I mean by genuine honesty. So, you are nice. You're actually very nice because you're honest about it. You're genuine about how you feel about something. But a lot of times you guys have these narrations that come from simply trying to put yourself down. And this is a perfect example. You will say, well, I'm not intimidating, because you might associate intimidation with attraction, which it is, right? And you might say, I'm not intimidating because I'm very nice. But that's not the same thing. You being genuine can be very nice. But the example I want to give is something that I might see a lot. Let's say we have a man and a woman, and perhaps she's not the best cook. And you know, it happens, right? And she tried her best, which we give credit where credit is due, right? But it doesn't taste that good. And so you are eating it, or this man is eating the food. And he might say something like, I can appreciate that you tried. And he's honest about this. I can appreciate you tried. To be completely honest, I don't really like it, but I still will eat it. Let's say he's being kind and honest. I still will eat it. I just want to be honest with you. I don't like it that much. I really don't want you to feel bad. I'm not knocking you for being a bad cook. I'm just telling you how I feel. He's not saying, oh my God, this is so bad. This is disgusting. Or he's not lying and saying, wow, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. He's treading lightly where he needs to, of course, depending on your personality. This is an example. But he's still saying, I'm going to be honest. I don't like this. She might not take it well, or she might take it well because she appreciates him. But the reality is he was not being unkind there. In fact, I would argue he was being very kind. Maybe my example sounded too kind. I don't know. But he definitely was honest. And isn't that a form of kindness? I think it is. And so that's an example that I think a lot of people miss. But it is quite true about honesty and being intimidating. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you are honest, your soul is dyed with the color of integrity. And that integrity is what makes you stand out in a world full of people who are too afraid to say what they really mean. And standing out, especially when you're being authentic, is intimidating to those who hide behind masks. The next one is that you own up to your mistakes, but you don't let them take over or weigh you down. You accept them, you work on it, and you move on. Why is this intimidating? Because a person who doesn't do this, they will feel a little jealous and intimidated that you're able to take it so easily. A lot of people who don't change or own up to their mistakes, it's because they actually inwardly will beat themselves up over it, for lack of better words, and you don't do that. So, you're able to change and become a better person. That means you're able to be better for better opportunities, be better for higher quality partners, and you're able to have a more higher quality life, a better sense of well-being. And a lot of people, the majority of the reason why so many people can be unhappy or unsatisfied is because their perspective of their quality of life is less than their perception of what they want it to be. And so if you have a quality of life that they wish they had because you're able to own up to your mistakes, which is part of increasing that quality of life, in actuality, you will be intimidating. You'll be someone that maybe a woman might think, "Oh, I can't meet his standard. I don't know how to do that. You know, he's not going to think I'm good enough." Maybe some career opportunities, it might be intimidating. It's very similar to if somebody is, think about it from this perspective. If you're hiring somebody to be your administrative person, so let's say you're hiring an administrative person, right? And that administrative person has more qualifications than you do. You might have a job for them, but it's definitely not the administrative role. But if you're feeling like, "Oh, this person has more than me. They're better than I am," you might feel, "I'm a little intimidated." Maybe you will still offer them a better position, but you will still have a feeling that you notice they're overqualified. And that is exactly why people might feel like that. If you are owning up to your mistakes, you can come across overqualified to a lot of people in the dating pool. Seneca wrote that true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future. When you own up to your mistakes and move on, you are not anxiously dependent on the past. You are present, grounded, and free. And that freedom is what makes others feel like they can't keep up with you, because they're still trapped in their own guilt and shame while you've already moved forward. The next one is you expect things from other people, whether it be change or certain treatment. Remember we had mentioned, just like less than a couple seconds ago, you own up to your mistakes, but that means you also hold people to that standard as well. You expect things from other people. You expect women to show up. You expect them to change. You expect them to take accountability. You expect your friends to take accountability. You expect your employees to take accountability. You expect your boss to take accountability because that's what you do for yourself. This is intimidating because a lot of people don't do this. I'm just being honest with you. Most people are not comfortable with accountability. They would rather blame circumstances, other people, bad luck, anything but themselves. And when you walk into a room and you hold people to the same standard you hold yourself, it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them realize that they have been making excuses. And that realization is unpleasant. So they project that discomfort onto you and call you intimidating. But what they're really saying is, "You make me feel like I should be doing better, and I don't like that feeling." That's not your problem. That's theirs. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus also taught that no great thing is created suddenly, and the standard you set for yourself and others is no exception. It is built through the accumulation of small choices, each one reinforcing the last. Each time you choose to hold someone accountable, you build that standard. And as you build it, it becomes part of your presence. And that presence is what makes you intimidating to those who are not willing to do the same. The next one is you're honest when something is not working with someone. This doesn't mean you won't compromise. It doesn't even mean you're leaving right away. But you definitely are having that conversation that you want adjustment, that you want change. You want to explore the situation further about what needs to be done. Maybe you're dating this girl and for the first couple dates, you liked it, and then something bothered you. "I had a patient," he says. "We bought food and we shared a bread basket or something, and he noticed that she kept the basket way closer to her, so he had to very much reach over." Example: "Okay, but this is things I've seen in my calls." And that is something where he feels like, "Oh, to me that makes me feel like she's a little selfish, right? She keeps the basket to herself and it's almost as if it's just for her, even though it's a shared bread basket." And that immediately made him feel like, okay, this is something I want to explore in the sense, do I want to be with this person? Is she a selfish person? Might have a conversation about it. "Hey, I noticed this. I don't know if it's a..." He might not even say that specific thing, or he might call it out and say, "I noticed that this is something that we have a different perspective of. I'm a very generous guy. I like to give, but I also don't want to be a person where I'm always giving. What is your perspective on this? I noticed this. Do you have an explanation for this? What's your perspective on this?" He's honest when something's not working. "I feel like we're very different people. Can you elaborate?" Right? And then he's able to make a decision. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. When you are honest about what's not working, you are exercising that power. You are not letting the situation control you. You are addressing it head on. And that directness is what makes you intimidating to people who prefer to sweep things under the rug. The next one is he'll speak up when somebody crosses a boundary, even when the other person might be upset because he's not really looking for an outcome. He's just looking for himself to be seen and understood, not from a way where he needs other people's validation. Even though he can understand that validation is powerful in certain times, but that's not really the main issue. He's just saying, hey, this was crossed and I don't want it to happen again. And I want you to be aware of that because it might be a mistake, or maybe it wasn't your fault, but if I don't say it, you won't know. So that's why I'm saying it. He's able to clarify. This is one of the most intimidating qualities a man can have because it shows that he is not afraid of conflict. He's not afraid of being disliked. He's not afraid of the other person's reaction. He's simply stating what he needs and moving on. Most people avoid conflict at all costs. They would rather be uncomfortable in silence than speak up and risk making things awkward. But the man who speaks up when a boundary is crossed is the man who cannot be pushed around. And that is intimidating to people who are used to getting their way by making others uncomfortable. Seneca wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. When you waste your time staying silent about boundaries being crossed, you are wasting the opportunity to build a life of respect and authenticity. But when you speak up, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your dignity. And that is what makes you intimidating. And the last one is that this person is open and honest when they like someone and also when you don't. So if you mention, I don't really like this girl, I'm not interested. Or you might say, I actually feel like this friendship is something more and I'm starting to think that we have a connection. What's your perspective? Because I would like to explore that with you. This is the final piece of the puzzle. The man who can be honest about his feelings, whether they are positive or negative, is the man who cannot be manipulated. He doesn't play games. He doesn't leave people guessing. He doesn't string people along because he's afraid of confrontation. He says what he means, and he means what he says. And that is rare. And because it's rare, it's intimidating. Most people are terrified of being honest about how they feel. They're afraid of rejection, of judgment, of the other person's reaction. So they hide behind ambiguity, mixed signals, and silence. But the man who is honest about his feelings is the man who knows his worth. He knows that he deserves clarity, and he gives it to others because he respects them enough not to leave them wondering. That kind of respect is intimidating to people who are used to being treated with less. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus also taught that no great thing is created suddenly, and the ability to be honest about your feelings is no exception. It is created through the accumulation of moments where you choose to speak your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And as you build that ability, it becomes part of your presence. And that presence is what makes you intimidating to those who are not willing to do the same. So, I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. The reality is, intimidation isn't about being mean or aggressive. It's about being so grounded in your own truth that others can't help but feel the weight of your presence. And that weight is what makes you attractive, not just to women, but to everyone who values authenticity. Because in a world full of people who are too afraid to be real, the man who is real is a rare and precious thing. Be that man. Build that life. And watch how everything changes. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you cultivate thoughts of honesty, integrity, and self-respect, your soul reflects that. And people will see it. They will feel it. And they will be drawn to it. Because in a world of men who are afraid to speak the truth, a man who is honest is a rare and precious thing. Be that man. Build that life. And watch how everything changes.